I will summarize a book that is an excellent primer for startup media relations. This is Exposure: Insider Secrets to Make Your Business a Go-To Authority for Journalists. It is a must-read for founders. The author worked with 2 Nobel Prize winners and has over 30 years' experience as a journalist, editor, and writer. She worked for BBC News. Objective media coverage brings credible attention, large audiences, and customer acquisition. The best way to get media coverage is to be a reliable and consistent authority. You are a trusted source for journalists. Become a thought leader and category king. You want to be the only person who can talk about a particular category, the go-to authority for the media. What often breaks through the noise is coverage from journalists. Media coverage is like a third-party endorsement that people trust. Content published on your own channels is always viewed as self-promotion, whereas the media is more trustworthy. Leverage media coverage to grow your channels faster. Gain exposure with zero or little financial investment. A single piece of media coverage can win you exposure to thousands of millions of viewers. That content is also evergreen, meaning it can be useful for a long time. Contrast that with something like advertising, where you need to keep paying money, or social media, where you need to keep cranking out new content. Getting headlines and recognition for something you're not committed to as a business can throw your business off track, so stay focused. Media provides useful backlinks for SEO. Journalists absolutely love case studies and personal stories. I once presented a story to a journalist about corruption in Canada's dairy industry. What he really wanted, though, was a personal story about the victims of that corruption. Stories are the currency of all journalists. Scrutinize the story of your business strategy the way a journalist would. See your business strategy as an unfolding story with holes and conflicts. Look for case studies showing product market fit. Look for media interest in a specific problem. There's a popular myth that a snappy subject header and press release headline are going to persuade journalists, but the main thing that they're looking for is your credibility as a source. Journalists often look straight to the boilerplate at the end of an email or press release. This is a paragraph that summarizes what your business is known for. It's about 50 words. Summarize what your business does in a short, easy to understand way. It should answer who you are, what you do, how you make it work, where you make it work, and when you make it work. Who you are, your business name, and where to direct people, such as your website or your Amazon store. What you do, for example, a tool that you invented, how you make it work, proof that you have something tangible. Where and when you make it work, evidence of where and when other people trust you to show that you are qualified to be trusted. Can you prove you can do what you say? Case studies can provide this. Can you pitch a journalist or an investor? And if you do, they want to know that you and your story are both credible. Pitch a strong story that ties into an emerging trend, mood, or force that may start shaping the world. Keep in mind that when you pitch a journalist, there's often an editor behind the scenes influencing decisions. The journalist doesn't have total control. Convince journalists that you're offering something new or rare and give evidence that a lot of people are going to value it. Here are 2 key criteria for journalists. Number 1, is it new or rare? And 2, does it affect a lot of people? Journalists are very risk averse and have lots of choices and inboxes filled with pitches. Also keep in mind that they aren't very flexible because they often have tight deadlines that cannot be changed. Unlike in business, journalism deadlines are often not arbitrary. With TV or radio, you might pitch a story only 2 days before it airs. When journalists look at a media release, they often skip the headline and go straight to who you are and what your story is. Here's a quote from the author. Headlines don't win engagement from journalists. Well-made stories from reliable sources do. Write the story before your headline. Ask yourself why this is your story to tell now. Include your boilerplate at the bottom of every media release and email pitch. The key to getting a journalist's attention is to show that you are a knowledge expert. They might think your story is great, but not believe you're the right person to tell that story. For example, I personally use the tool Haro, which sends me multiple emails per day. These emails are requests for experts to provide input or quotes for specific stories. When I respond, my main goal is to establish my credibility and expertise. For example, the fact that I was a Fortune 500 brand manager and have an MBA from the Kellogg School of Management. Here's a formula for story arc. Inciting incident, call to action. 3 key growth points: success, disaster, recovery, benefit to the world. You can make your business the hero of the story arc. Note that the author of Building a Story Brand suggests that you should make the customer the hero of the story instead of the company. The author of this book, Exposure, essentially does this by emphasizing the importance of case studies. The inciting incident is what prompted the creation of your business. The call to action could be your first big win, like a venture capital fundraising round. 3 big growth points are 3 wins, such as landing a big partnership or a big client. In my case, this would be the Series A startup I worked for that landed an exclusive partnership with Intuit, or the pre-seed company I worked for that joined a Google Accelerator. A big expansion in your company could also qualify, such as setting up a new office in London. Success is your biggest success, such as evaluation of your business. Disaster is your biggest setback. Recovery is evidence you're overcoming a big challenge. Benefit to the world is the scope of your impact relative to where you started or what your competitors are doing. Think about who is the best person to tell your story. For example, if you raise venture capital, then you might look to TechCrunch, Business Insider, or Sift. Getting a big round of funding is one of the easiest media opportunities for a startup, so you should milk that for all it's worth. In contrast, hiring someone with a credible background as an employee has a lot less media value because it happens all the time. The author advises against 2 strategies. 1, getting quick wins with PR, and 2, a scattergun approach. Don't measure success in terms of how many pieces of coverage you get. You want to maximize impact, not volume. Focus on the quality of your coverage and momentum rather than on quantity. You might measure success in terms of the number of leads generated in the first month from the release date, or maybe the value of business generated in 2 months from the release date, perhaps by the value of repeat customers. It's difficult to calculate the financial return from media coverage. A lot of media can have a slow burn effect, generating leads and sales months after you're featured. Media plants seeds with buyers who purchase later. Personally, I think marketers focus too much on trying to attribute marketing to individual channels. Instead, they should focus on maximizing impact. Often that means thinking holistically about various channels working together. It's difficult and often useless trying to isolate the contribution of individual assets. It's mostly impossible for an outside agency to calculate impact because they don't have access to your CRM and financial data in most cases. You have to figure out the impact of media for your business, and often that means estimating rather than doing precise calculations. You should amplify media coverage by featuring it in your owned channels. I'd add that it's helpful to advertise it as well. One of the most effective Facebook advertising tactics is to use an influencer's video instead of your own. Similarly, you could boost content from CNN or some other credible source. Amplify all your media coverage. You can be creative. The author talks about how she promoted a wildlife festival. People dressed up in panda costumes, got some cameras, and pretended to be animals making a documentary about humans. Pictures are one of the easiest ways to get media coverage. You can imagine the visual appeal of pandas filming humans. Note that journalists work in packs and are very aware of each other's stories. Use your press release as a blueprint for media interviews, especially the quotes you use in it. Memorize those. You can repeat the info in your press release. Have a list of key lines to use. Something I noticed from people who are often featured in the media is that they recycle key talking points. They speak almost flawlessly because they're essentially stating the same things over and over as though they're modules. Prepare for anything that might lead to awkward questions. I want to add a personal note here that you and the journalists are collaborators, not competitors. Sometimes people think journalists or reporters want to catch you or attack you. My brother used to do media tours to promote video games. One thing he pointed out is that the media workers want the interview to go well, so they work with you rather than against you. In planning, you can prepare a list of stories you plan to tell for the coming 12 months. Keep in mind that journalists will be asking themselves, why should I bother with this? Or I just don't get it. Before you contact a journalist, figure out why you want media coverage. It could be as simple as acquiring new customers. Make sure you have a spokesperson, someone to answer questions such as a CEO or the author of your research report. Not everything can be outsourced, and many companies try to outsource media relations too early. People often have faulty expectations from journalists. For example, they think they should get approval on copy before it gets published, and to be able to tell the journalist to change a published story. These situations are not common. Media relations is about momentum. Position yourself as a subject matter expert to get that momentum. Here's a 5-step process for implementing media relations. 1. Educate yourself. 2. Educate your co-founder or key leads in your business. For example, how to articulate what you do in 50 words, how to tell your business strategy unfolding as a story, and developing case studies in your business. 3. Draft your story arc and identify your top target journalists and outlets. This starts with your inciting incident. Get somebody to execute media relations in your business. That's number 4. And number 5 is get expert help. Note that branding, social media, and media coverage need to integrate together. When I was a brand manager, I would build a calendar and a spreadsheet that listed the key marketing activities for a product. I often started with key events that would get press coverage and coordinated marketing assets around those events. The key here is integration. Too many marketers try to isolate the impact of individual ads or channels. Instead, they should focus on the overall impact of a campaign by integrating marketing assets. Think of assets and channels as supporting each other rather than competing with each other for credit or attribution. Avoid agencies that try to bundle media relations with other offers. This is often because the agency isn't particularly strong at PR. Have outcomes linked to budget. Good agencies generally want to work on retainer because it takes a while to get results and retainers provide them with consistent income. You could hire a consultant to help you as you prepare for the next phase of the story in the media for your business. Do research. For example, you might realize that a particular media outlet likes to put guests on the air and you need to prepare for that interview. Or maybe they just publish your name in quotes, in which case you can just prepare something in writing. Or maybe the guests on that channel are always celebrities. Perhaps hire a celebrity to work with you in that case. Many people believe journalists want excitement, but often what they crave more is for something to be usable. Don't worry so much about pitching journalists with something exciting. What they want is enough information to stimulate a negotiation about the story. Journalists think about how a story will relate to the audience and what will make people take notice. A good story is interesting, accurate, focused, touches people's lives, involves humans, and has substance. Stories that do well, out of the ordinary, show the world is going crazy, make people go wide-eyed. It's the first or the biggest. It's unique, amazing, shocking. People want to tell others about it. Human touch helps. Real-life stories work. One of the biggest challenges journalists run into is unreliable sources. Also, lack of case studies or images. They are under pressure from editors to get interesting, accurate, and complete stories published to a deadline. Their inboxes are filled with pitches that have no news value or that are just self-promotion. One of your goals might be raising awareness that you solve a particular problem. You do this with a sequence of stories. Case studies demonstrate impact. Case studies also last a long time. But creating case studies by getting people to fill out templates doesn't work. Instead, interview frontline people and consider incentivize them to work with you. Then you can craft the right story yourself. Create a headline indicating a trend to hook people. Here are 15 elements of a press release. Date, embargoed to date, headline, top line part 1, top line part 2, top line proof, quote, story detail 1, story detail 2, story detail 3. For further info, contact, ends, notes to the editors, and then about. The word about here is followed by the name of your company. The embargo is when you have a specific timeline like a product launch. For further info, you can offer a gift to the journalist like access to people for interviews, more images, or case studies. End means that the story is ended. Notes to the editor might include links. The about section establishes your credibility. Quotes are often the best place for you to start. Most journalists expect to get answers from an accountable person like an author or a company founder. Top line part 1 might be a key discovery you made. Top line part 2 might be about how you're connected to that discovery. Top line proof might be evidence to show your discovery is real and important for many people. Story details 1 to 3 could be more details about your discovery. Write your headline last. Here's a media release example. Tuesday, 14 June 2026. Embargo to 00.01, Thursday, 16 June 2026. More than 90% find media releases difficult. More than 89% of entrepreneurs say they find writing media releases difficult, according to a survey of 1,000 founders. The CEO of Media Relations Coach said, "I'm amazed by how high that figure is, and that's a big problem. For further info, including case studies and images, please contact XXX at this email." Ends, notes to editors. Their survey results are available here. About the Media Relations Coach. The Media Relations Coach helps early stage businesses ... This example was about a discovery, but you could do a media release about something else, like a twist on a current issue. For example, it's reported that more than 2,816 existing startups could achieve unicorn status. Use Google to find out what you want, such as the best blogs about construction, UK magazines about men's health, or the education editor for BBC. Also use Google to search LinkedIn or LinkedIn's own search engine. Here are examples of search queries. Senior producer for Today program, LinkedIn blogger technology LinkedIn, or fashion freelance writer LinkedIn. You could also try Twitter. How to pitch your story to any journalist in 7 steps. 1. Create your boilerplate and media release and gather images. 2. Identify and find contact details for your top targets. 3. Write your pitch email/message using this format. Subject header, possible story - headline. Dear name of journalist, I have a story you may be interested in. It follows, and I'm also sending pictures. Use the word best followed by your name and contact details. You could email that message and follow up via phone. You might say, I'm really keen to get covered by you because of a particular reason, and then say, I haven't sent this anywhere else yet. Identify which media outlets are best suited for each story you want to produce. Organize your media by type because they will share common needs. For example, broadcast media will want interviews, whereas print can simply cut and paste a press release. Broadcast deadlines are also shorter. You might have a spreadsheet showing broadcast channels like BBC with contact names, details, stories covered, and notes. Then another section for print and online, and so on. As you get featured in the media, you can add a section to your website that says as featured in. Note that links don't live forever, so keep records of your media placements. I will add that these can be included in advertisements, cold emails, product listings, and so on. Media placements quickly establish your credibility, making it more likely that someone will buy from you.